911 police paramedical.
Yes, my girlfriend shot herself.
Okay, let me connect you to medical.
On March 17, 2018, a disturbing crime scene left investigators scrambling for answers. A concerned boyfriend, Jericho Willis, was at the center of it all, unaware that he was about to become the prime suspect in the death of his girlfriend, Aisha. With no clear leads, this case seemed like a tragic accident, but the truth would soon take a darker turn. When officers arrived at the Tulsa home of 30-year-old Jericho Willis, they found Aisha's lifeless body lying on the floor, while Jericho and two others.
We need room to help her. Can't go in. Can't go in. No.
His brother Terry and sister-in-law were present at the scene. Despite the police's best efforts, it was too late to save Aisha. Officers noticed a bullet hole in the wall and a 9mm projectile on a child's bunk bed, suggesting a gun had been involved.
On the right side of her head, kind of below the ear. Stippling right there?
I don't know. The gun is really clean. There's plastic along the staircase coming down.
Meanwhile, neighbors reported hearing a fall and a cry for help, which only deepened the mystery surrounding Aisha's death. As the investigation unfolded, detectives began to question Aisha's family. Her father claimed that Aisha had never shown signs of depression or suicidal tendencies, casting doubt on the initial assumption that Aisha had taken her own life. This raised more questions, especially after learning that Aisha had been around guns before, but never owned one. Then came the discovery of a crucial detail. A neighbor overheard someone saying, "I need you," just before the incident. With no solid leads and conflicting statements,
Oh, yes. She said she heard it sound like somebody falling downstairs. And then somebody said, "I need you." You heard any arguing going on before? She didn't say. And all she heard was,
detectives decided to perform an autopsy on Aisha's body. Meanwhile, Jericho, his brother Terry, and his sister-in-law were all taken into custody for questioning. During the interrogation, Jericho's story raised more suspicions than answers. He claimed that when he returned home, Aisha was playing with a gun. According to him, she pointed the gun at his head, and when he tried to take it away, it went off. But Jericho's account seemed off. He claimed he didn't know where Aisha had gotten the gun, yet later admitted she had once mentioned wanting to shoot herself.
When he got from work, came home, he just went upstairs and started cleaning up. Went to the bathroom, came back out, and she had the gun playing with it and had it to her head.
Oh, so she was playing?
Yeah, playing with the gun. I didn't think that it was going to go off or that she was serious or nothing like that.
Though he didn't take it seriously. The situation became even murkier when Jericho said that after the gunshot, Aisha fell down the stairs. He tried shaking her, but she wouldn't wake up. He then attempted to call 911, but the call wouldn't go through, so he called his brother Terry, who then helped him contact emergency services. At this point, the detectives were unsure whether Jericho was a witness or if his actions raised questions about his involvement. Things only grew more suspicious when Jericho failed to hand over his phone, claiming he didn't have it.
After the gun goes off, what happens to her? What does she do?
She falls down the stairs.
And what do you do?
I started trying to shake her and wake her up. She wouldn't wake up. I tried to call the 911 and it wouldn't go through.
Detectives began to wonder if he had given it to his brother Terry. They also questioned whether Jericho had tampered with the gun after the shooting, but he denied it. Meanwhile, Terry was questioned about his whereabouts during the incident. He said Jericho called him in a panic, claiming that Aisha had killed herself. Upon arriving at the scene, Terry described Jericho as distraught, but he also mentioned that he had moved the gun to avoid further harm when he saw it near Aisha's body. Detectives also became increasingly suspicious of Terry's wife when she refused to grant permission for them to search her car. This refusal raised more concerns about her involvement in the case, leading the detectives to suspect there might be more to the story than they were being told. Despite these red flags, the detectives decided to press on and question Jericho again. This time, they challenged his version of events, especially the claim that Aisha owned the gun. They were convinced that the gun didn't belong to her and believed that Jericho was more involved than he had admitted. Jericho's story began to fall apart as investigators dug deeper into his past. A background check revealed a disturbing history of violence. Jericho had been arrested and convicted of aggravated assault, battery, burglary, and possession of a firearm. There were also reports of him threatening and using violence against other women in past relationships. One report described how he had tried to cut a woman with a knife and had kicked another in the head. This revelation was a major turning point in the investigation, leading detectives to conclude that Jericho was not a mere witness, but likely the perpetrator. Finally, Jericho was arrested and taken into custody. His clothes were sent for forensic testing, and investigators were determined to uncover the truth about what happened that day. It became clear that his involvement was undeniable, and the investigation would soon reveal the dark reality behind Aisha's tragic death.
Do you mind the word is home?
Yeah, you're not going home. You're going to jail.
What am I going to jail for?
For being there with a gun at the house. You're not supposed to. You're on federal paper. Well, you're getting ready to go now.
Jericho's confidence in his innocence couldn't mask the inconsistencies in his story. As the investigation continued, the truth about the events leading to Aisha's death became clearer. Jericho's past behavior, along with the evidence gathered, confirmed the detectives' worst suspicions. This wasn't an accidental death, but a crime of passion. Jericho was arrested on March 19, 2018, for possessing firearms, but the case took a darker turn as detectives uncovered key pieces of evidence. They were eager to search his phone, hoping it would lead to the truth, but first they needed to follow up on a crucial lead. A neighbor had heard suspicious noises coming from Aisha's apartment before the incident, and detectives hoped she could offer more details. The neighbor recalled hearing sounds around 3 a.m., like someone falling downstairs. She saw at least one black male near the apartment and noted a long delay before police arrived, which raised red flags about Jericho's involvement. Detectives also interviewed neighbors and reviewed surveillance footage, but found little helpful information. However, the autopsy report provided critical insight. It revealed that Aisha's gunshot wound was consistent with a shot fired from at least 3 feet away, ruling out suicide. This discovery gave detectives the probable cause to charge Jericho with first-degree murder.
There's like 3,000 or 4,000 photos.
That's a pistol. Oh, dude. That's probably the gun.
The investigation intensified when they searched Jericho's brother Terry's car, where they found Jericho's hidden phone. Inside, detectives uncovered thousands of photos, including one of a pistol taken just 2 weeks before Aisha's death. Further analysis of Jericho's phone revealed he had lied about calling 911 first. He had actually called his brother 5 times before making the emergency call. As detectives dug deeper, they discovered a pattern of abusive behavior in Jericho's past relationships, suggesting that his history of violence might have escalated to murder. With mounting evidence, Jericho's web of lies was starting to unravel, and the truth was finally coming into focus.
March 17. That's his brother's phone number. There's several outgoing calls. Look at that. He said he called 911 first, but that's a lie.
A month after Aisha's death, detectives brought in one of Jericho's ex-girlfriends for questioning, hoping she could provide some crucial information. However, the revelations she shared stunned them. She revealed that Terry, Jericho's brother, had been contacting her through messages, instructing her not to say anything negative about Jericho when talking to the police. Terry allegedly told her to speak highly of Jericho and avoid mentioning anything that could harm his reputation. This raised immediate concerns for the detectives, as it seemed Terry was actively trying to protect his brother. Despite this, the ex-girlfriend proceeded to speak out, sharing disturbing details about her past relationship with Jericho. Initially, Jericho had appeared sweet and loving, but that quickly changed. The first time he hit her was at a club when he accused her of eyeing another man. He punched her in the face so hard that she was knocked unconscious. She described the relationship as boot camp, where Jericho controlled and abused her. She expressed that when she saw the news about Aisha's death, she knew there was no way it could have been suicide. In her gut, she believed Aisha had stood up for herself, and Jericho likely shot her. The ex-girlfriend even revealed that when Jericho would beat her, he would call Terry, suggesting that Terry was not just a bystander, but possibly involved in the abuse. Detectives were taken aback by her revelation, especially when she mentioned Terry's name before they even brought it up. It confirmed their suspicions that Terry might be involved in the crime or, at the very least, complicit in protecting Jericho. The ex-girlfriend was clearly scared, fearing that speaking out might lead to her own death, much like Aisha's. Despite her trauma, she decided to help the police, knowing it was her chance to stand up and stop Jericho's reign of violence. She expressed deep regret for not being able to stand up to Jericho sooner, especially when she saw Aisha's body. For her, it was like looking at her own reflection, and the reality of leaving 3 children without their mother weighed heavily on her. A month later, Jericho was set to face trial, with 2 key ex-girlfriends ready to testify against him. But just before the court hearing, a woman approached one of the ex-girlfriends, warning her to remain silent. She was threatening to intimidate the witnesses and prevent them from speaking out. The police quickly identified this woman as Dallas Rand and arrested her for attempting to intimidate a state's witness. During questioning, Dell seemed genuinely scared, but detectives were suspicious of her actions. She admitted to meeting with Terry after the courthouse incident, where he allegedly told her the truth about Aisha's death. According to Dells, Terry said that when Jericho called him, he claimed Aisha had killed herself. When Terry arrived at the scene, he found Aisha's body on the ground with the gun nearby. Terry said that the position of the gun didn't match a suicide and that Jericho had likely killed her. Terry admitted to moving the gun to cover up the crime, ensuring it wasn't in the wrong position when the police arrived.
I guess Officer Anthony, you wanted to talk to a detective and you said, yeah, is that right or no?
Yeah, what is it about?
That's your warrant. The district attorney filed charges on you for intimidating a state's witness.
This revelation from Dells provided a crucial piece of the puzzle, further implicating both Jericho and Terry in Aisha's death. A month after Aisha Wallace's death, detectives brought in one of Jericho Willis's ex-girlfriends for questioning, hoping she could shed light on the case. What they didn't expect were the revelations she was about to share. When she walked into the interrogation room, she seemed reluctant, but once she spoke, the truth began to unfold. "I've been told not to talk to you all," she revealed. "Terry's been sending messages to people to pass on to me." She explained that Terry had contacted her, instructing her to only speak highly of Jericho when questioned by detectives. This was a shock, as it suggested Terry was actively working to protect his brother, Jericho, from the investigation. Despite the pressure, the ex-girlfriend pressed on, revealing shocking details about her relationship with Jericho. At first, she described their relationship as loving and sweet, but it quickly turned dark. She recounted the first time Jericho hit her. "We were at the club," she said. "He accused me of eyeing another man, and I was knocked out cold."
He's like, "I don't know what's wrong with my brother." He said he felt like they were arguing and that he just got mad and shot her. After he told me about the Aisha thing, he said, "I can't tell you what to do, but don't go against my brother, so I'm warning you right now."
This was just the beginning. She claimed their relationship turned into a nightmare, calling it boot camp, where she was subjected to Jericho's abuse. When she saw the news of Aisha's death, she immediately felt that it wasn't suicide. She probably stood up for herself, she suggested, indicating that Jericho's violent tendencies may have been a factor. She continued, naming Terry as someone Jericho always called when his abuse escalated. This was key information. Terry had never been mentioned by detectives before, yet this woman knew exactly who he was. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and detectives knew they were on the right track. However, as the investigation deepened, things took a darker turn. Another of Jericho's ex-girlfriends was prepared to testify, but before she could, a woman named Dallas Rand showed up at the courthouse, trying to intimidate the witnesses. The police swiftly arrested Rand for witness intimidation. Under interrogation, she admitted that Terry had been in contact with her. When detectives confronted Dills, she admitted that she had met with Terry after the courthouse incident. She claimed Terry had confessed to her that Jericho was responsible for Aisha's death. Terry told her that when he arrived at the scene, he saw Aisha's body lying in a way that suggested foul play. He even mentioned kicking the gun away from the body, knowing it would look staged. This was the missing piece detectives had been looking for. Terry's actions, as described by Dills, painted a clear picture of his involvement. With the new information, detectives were ready to arrest Terry. Hours later, they tracked him down and brought him in for questioning. During his interrogation, Terry maintained his innocence. He denied any involvement in the death of Aisha and insisted that he didn't believe the scene was staged. But detectives confronted him with evidence that contradicted his story. When asked if he had moved the gun to stage the scene, he hesitated but ultimately didn't deny it. The evidence against Terry mounted, and he was eventually charged with witness intimidation and accessory to murder. Jericho's trial was set in motion. Originally facing a first-degree murder charge, he pleaded guilty to second-degree murder in April 2021. He was sentenced to 20 years in prison, with an additional 10 years for possessing a firearm. Terry, meanwhile, received a 10-year sentence for his role in the case. While justice had been served, it could never bring Aisha back. Her tragic death left behind a family in mourning, especially her father, who was devastated. "A part of me died when they told me she was dead," he said, heartbroken. "I miss her smile, her laugh. She was my best friend." Though Aisha's story ended in tragedy, the case brought closure to her family. As for Jericho and Terry, their involvement in her death had been uncovered. But the emotional scars of this horrific event would remain for those who loved her.